It runs! I didn't shut it off, it died, but it runs! I'm Joshua Mazerolle. I own Vague Industries, and my show Deathwish is where expert-level fabricators use their skill set to manifest jaw-dropping creations. My crew and I are on a mission, using eye-catching stunts and machines to expose the kindness of strangers in America. This is the start of the Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure, a 3-day overland journey at the end of May in Arizona, comprised of vehicles that were never offered from the factory in four-wheel drive but have been converted. It's full of challenges, competitions, trail rides, camping, and games. I've got a 1984 El Camino. We're going to be building this thing straight through, ground up, basically only using the body and chassis. It'll be big block, manual trans, dual cases, links, coilovers, 1-ton bead locks, the works. We've partnered with a handful of companies to help make sure that this vehicle comes together with all the right equipment we need to make this thing go off without a hitch. Trying to make some clearance in this trans tunnel for the transfer case. I guess I should check and see how much I need first. Have all kinds of room in there now. This was all the way out here before. So the subframe we're building for the El Camino has a whole bunch of blind holes in it. We're just tack welding a whole bunch of 3/8 nuts to the backside so that they're captured. We don't need to be able to get in there with a wrench or anything. So Kaylee's taking care of that for us. Just digging around in the dumpster at Vague Industries, and I found this 4-link subframe specifically built for a Gbody. I'm gonna slide it under and see how it fits. Alright, I got this subframe all sort of squared up underneath the car. All the brackets and gussets fit the profile of the frame rail, goes front to back. I'm gonna tack it in place so that I can get the ends of it boxed in and gusseted up. And it's going to be a bad little flat belly here. I'm really excited about this. I'd definitely consider making more of these Gbody subframe kits. We put the 05 up, Ford Super Duty axle in the front, same width, and it turns it into 4-link instead of radius arm, which has a terrible anti-dive ratio. But it's a lot of metal, very complex, would not be inexpensive, but it fits awesome and it makes life so easy. Now we got the subframe tacked in, it's time to cut the front suspension out and anything else that gets in my way. That was pretty dumb. That went right in my face. not scared.
So I'm going to needle scale the axle. It's the easiest and fastest way to clean it. So keep doing it.
All right, so we got a couple companies on board here. We got Nitro Gear and Axle, Torque Master Industries for our lockers, and RCB for our shafts. We chose 488 gears because our low revving big block. We want to do a lot of highway driving with this. We've only got 37s on it. We couldn't go super deep or we'd be too high in the RPM range. We've got ring and pinion for the Dana 60. This is out of an 05 up Super Duty. And we've got ring and pinion for the same rear axle, which is a 10.5-inch Sterling. We also have the master install kit, comes with bearings and seals and all that jazz. The lockers, they basically just replace the spider gears inside the stock open carrier in the Dana 60, but they have, Torque Master has a new locker that's never been available before for the Sterling 10.5. The most common carrier is the limited slip diff, so they decided to make a locker that fits the most common carrier, the limited slip diff. So that should be available now.
We broke down the side of the road.
That's pretty close though. Looks like maybe another foul or two. We finally got everything set. Preload's good, backlash is good, pattern on the ring gear is good. All we gotta do is do it one more time for the front axle. So the last part of our front axle build is gonna be these RCV axle shafts, easily identifiable by their orange rubber boot. I started asking around what shafts I need for this. I want to make sure that I don't break. It didn't take long before people started saying that I needed RCVs. They are the strongest axles on the planet, and they back it up with a no questions asked lifetime guarantee. So that was enough for me. If I ever think I can break it, they're going to replace it without asking any questions and ship one right to my door. At this point, I think that the weak link is probably my right foot. We get a bunch of these heims from HeimanRodEnd.com. We ended up using 1.25 inch for all our control arms, and I was planning on using these 1.25 inch heims for the panhard, but it looks like the factory Super Duty panhard is just going to fit. But either way, we're using the front upper and lower control arms on the chassis side, and then they'll be on the chassis and the axle side on the rear lower control arms and upper control arms. So I drew up a file for a rear axle truss. It doesn't go end to end. It's not necessarily to keep the axle housing from bending. It's more just to give me a place to mount my upper links. So now that all this is cooled, it's contracted, I'm going to break the truss back off to the actual axle housing and then refit it so that when this last pass goes on, the axle doesn't totally warp and turn into a banana.
Absolutely.
Alright, so I need crawl gears in my El Camino. We're going to take new process 241 transfer case. It's normally found in like a 90s IFS Chevy pickup. And we're gonna cut that box down and weld a plate onto the back of it and make an adapter plate to bolt a new process 205 transfer cases, which is an all iron gear driven case. It's 2-to-1. The 241 is 2.72 to 1. And when you multiply those together, you end up with like 5.38. So we're gonna have a super low crawl ratio with two old used kind of junk transfer cases, but when you put them together, one awesome mashup. However, I do not trust any of the shared files on the internet for making these adapter plates, so I brought in Aaron with FabWorks to 3D scan these two cases so that we can get super accurate bolt patterns and profiles, and we're gonna make our own adapter kit. Because basically nobody's really making this adapter kit right now. They did a few years ago, but now that we got Aaron with FabWorks, it's gonna be money.
So now that we have our completed scan of the 205 transfer case, we can go in and pull some reverse engineering data from the scan and extract out exact data for bolt patterns and whatnot for flanges and case adapters and mounts and things like that.
This is a 37-12.5 Falcon Wild Peak mud terrain. We've got a 17-inch raceline beadlock wheel. The sipes and big voids between the tread blocks means ultimate traction for off-roading. We chose a 37-inch diameter tire, mostly for the larger rolling radius. Essentially what that is larger tire, smaller obstacle.
So the 05 Up Ford Super Duty Dana 60 front axle has a lower control arm mount. It's a little bit low, so we have these custom-made high clearance lower control arm links made with 2 1/4 OD 3/8 wall thick DOM with Heims from Heim and rodend.com. Let's install them.
Perfect. So I just spent all evening building this badass Crossmember. It's there to stiffen this floppy ass frame and protect the radiator. And if you've ever built anything and you had to use a tape measure to build it, you probably know what I'm talking about when I say that you inched yourself. Well, I measured to the top of the crossmember and I should have measured to the bottom, and this crossmember is 2 inches too high. I'm not putting the 2-inch body lift in this, so life is full of hurdles, and it's really about how you overcome them. I could throw a big fit, I could body lift it, I could cut it all out and not put one in at all. Quick goat thinking, we're gonna cut a 45 on each side, pop that out, just lay it underneath and cap off the ends. That should drop it the full 2 inches, and it'll still be sort of gusseted up on the sides. It'll have some sort of continuity. It'll be, I guess, in a way double butted at the end and gusseted, but frustrated with myself because I don't have time to be making mistakes like this. That was easier than I thought. Then I can just cap this in, all 4 open ends, almost like I did it on purpose. For lower shock mounts, I made these up. They're gonna bolt on right there, and then I'll just run some gussets down here and we'll weld it all the way on, all the way around. The bolt's just for safety and security. Shocks mounted up top on the knuckle. Get it out of the way of any of the steering components, the steering knuckle, It keeps it far enough away from the tire for when it articulates, the tire's not going to jam into the coilover. The only downside is it sticks to the hood, and if you don't care about it sticking to the hood, it's way simpler to just mount it up high on the axle. The Astrovan steering box is a reverse rotation, so the pitman arm actually swings forward, and with the Wagoneer pitman arm on it, it hangs really low. So I whipped up this little steering box guard. I'm gonna weld to the bottom of the crossmember just to make sure that I don't smash the pitman arm off a big rock and blow the box apart. Ordinarily, most people will bend a shock hoop up and around with 2 tabs coming off it with a bolt through the shock. Since the shocks are going to be sticking to the hood, I wanted to give something to look at. I wanted something more than just a piece of tube. So I whipped this up. This is a shock hoop top, I guess. The tube runs through here, makes it super easy, and that just slides on here. Bolt goes through, got clearance for the hose, and they're off on a 20-degree angle, so the shock can tip in and the tube can tip back towards the chassis. So I'm at Gbody's Used Auto Parts in Walpole, Mass. And we're picking up 98 to 2001 454 out of a medium duty truck, like a Kodiak or top tick. These things are forged bottom ends. They've got a 24 by 1 reluctor, and it runs like a regular LS computer. So this thing's got coil on plug, port injected. It's basically a big block LS motor. They're extremely difficult to find, and I found 2. One just happened to be 2 hours away at Gbody's here, and the other one was out in Texas. And that's it, we're gonna pull it out right now.
We're gonna tear this motor down, clean it up, put some comp cams in it. Dude, this is nasty. So we got these comp cam parts for a 8.1 liter Vortec engine, which turned out to be junk. So we went with a Gen 6 L21 big block Chevy engine for its forged 454 bottom end, so it can handle all of the horsepower. Thankfully, most of these parts are interchangeable with the Gen 6. Only thing we're really gonna have to worry about is changing the firing order to take the 8.1 cam. So this is a 28 tooth reluctor wheel that allows the engine to work with the LS engine management system. She wants a big pump set.
How bad is it? The removal tool actually scalped the whole ID of this because we didn't have it tight enough to catch on this edge. It just sort of took all the babbitt off the bearing. You can see the parting line between the pieces. Ungood. So it's a good thing we weren't trying to save these bearings. Not savable. Oil comes in through this hole, so we got to make sure that we clock it correctly in the block when we put the new ones in. But easy. It's just reverse order now. Shaft. installed. So I don't know what it is about this L21, but it doesn't have timing marks on the crank. And normally you just line this dot up with that dot, but this is in the way and I can't find the timing mark for the life of me. But I know that the keyway generally lines up with the crank throw on the number 1 cylinder, so I've lined that up with the number 1 and then just pick the tooth that's close, and it's either gonna run or blow up. We'll hope the valve doesn't meet the piston on the first startup.
You got those lifters?
Yep, way ahead of you. To put standard roller rockers on a Gen 6 big block, you need these Comp Cams rocker stud conversions. They basically thread right into the head, and instead of having a non-adjustable, you can have a traditional rocker stud, so you can use old school 1.7 to 1 rocker ratio. So I chopped the front output shaft off of this 241 transfer case, and I'm just going to weld this cap on that bolts this front plate on, which is the adapter plate that we made from Fabworks 3D Scan. I really didn't know what clutch to use, so I got a hold of McLeod, told him what I'm doing. Got a low revving big block. I don't expect to make much more than 600-700 horse, but I need it to feel like a stock clutch. So they hooked me up with this twin disc clutch, and they claim that it should engage like a factory style clutch, so it should be nice and smooth when I'm in the rocks. I got a flywheel, twin disc clutch, alignment tool. This should all just bolt right on to my L21 and hook right up to my T56 Magnum. I picked up this T56 Magnum from 3 Pedals, and it was a used unit that he had sitting on the shelf. I sent it down to Tick Performance. They went right through it, made sure it was a brand new transmission, and because I didn't have a bell housing, we got a hold of QuickTime, and they sent us a bell housing that bolts directly to this GM front plate, and then also has the GM large corporate bell housing to fit my big block. This, made it with 3 pedals, billet pedal assembly for the Gbody and the McLeod clutch. I should have no problems. This should just literally bolt together and be headache free. The one thing on this car that there's no problems with.
Things gonna work?
Oh yeah. Just put a little bend in it to match that contour, and then weld it on.
Took the 241 output shaft, sent it down to Hudlow Axle in Rossville, Georgia. Had him chop it down, put 2 inches of 31 spline, and this fits directly into the Ford 205 that we're now bolting behind. The new Process 241, we're gonna end up with 5.33 to 1 low range when we're in double low. Is that gonna go past that Crossmember?
It's up against the floor.
It sure looks like it needs to go up a ½ inch.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll change once the engine drops.
Oops, watch your eyes.
At least hit the floor.
Yeah. We're hitting at the bottom.
Yeah, we're hitting right here.
Oil pressure sensor.
Oil pressure sensor.
Knox
It's gonna go back.
Yeah.
It's gonna go back a little bit.
but the power steering pump wants to be here and live in the same place as the steering box, and one of them's got to move. So I think we're going to notch the frame out more, push the engine over more, which means we'll get into the heater box. Somebody's got to move. We can't all live in the same house. I'll be damned.
Oh boy.
That's quite a bit.
More than half an inch.
Yeah, it's more than a half inch. This needs to move, the whole engine needs to move at least 1.5 inches over to the passenger side, and we're already 7/8 of an inch towards the passenger side. So we got like 5 days left. We got a boatload of work to do. I think I just decided that it's gonna make the most sense to do a cantilever suspension in the rear so that I can maintain bed space, because if I do shock hoops, I'm gonna have to tie them together and it'll basically eliminate all my bed space. But cantilever makes sense because I can integrate a sway bar into that and maximum bed space. I don't know how I'm gonna make it, but 5 days left. There we go. So I reached out to Josh. He owns a company called 3 Pedals out of Washington, D.C. They make billet pedal buckets for GM A-Body, G-Body, and B-Body to convert your automatic car into a manual transmission. Soon they'll have Ford Fox body pedals coming and a handful of other products down the pipe, but we don't want to get too ahead of the curve. This basically bolts right into your factory brake pedal mount. It's got a master cylinder that sits inside the pedal bucket, and about as easy as it gets. Just bolt it in, now you got a man pedal. So this is the first fit of the pedal assembly, and it's gonna fit perfectly without any problems. First time.
You touch and square? Here, can you? It's close though, right?
Sweet reservoir mount, tucks it like way out of sight. Alright, finally time to rip the body off this thing so I can do some finish welding. We got some gussets and bracing and whatever. Eric's got this thing all tied up. Time to pull the body. 4 days left. It is such a good feeling to see this chassis finally sitting on its own weight. The past 3 or 4 days, we've basically only got like 2.5 to 3 hours of sleep every night. We want to be on the road driving to Tennessee tomorrow, and this is what the car looks like. These lines are not going to last long. So we've got this collar that clamps onto this torsion bar at the front of a Chevy truck, but adapts the OD to the ID of this 2-inch pillow block bearing. This is going to be the pivot shaft for the cantilever system. It'll also act as a sway bar. Just flop flip.
Yep. Do everything.
Now all we got to do is pop that sending unit out and replace the factory fuel pump with the Holley.
You using this tank?
Yeah. Why is it super bad?
Oh, that was surface. I don't know if I'd use it.
It's great.
Yeah.
All right, don't pick at it because it's gonna leak. Leave it alone.
Okay.
I think we're gonna use it.
Okay.
Yeah, pull the sending unit out, and then we can put the Holley fuel pump in it, so we can run big horsepower.
Okay.
A factory rusty tank.
Sounds like a plan.
So now we got a replacement that should just fit. This is Holley's 340 liter per hour. Good for E85 fuel pump. But
That fits sweet.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm just gonna put the power terminals back on. And
Hook up the wires and done.
you got big power.
It's exciting. Finally burning these on. We'll probably, there's a couple of hard to reach areas. We'll probably do that when the motor and trans comes back out.
This is my first time using this tool. And what I'm gonna do is attempt to make rock sliders for El Camino. I did not steal your tape measure.
All the way. You're gonna walk all the way around. You're gonna go to 38 degrees. You're at 2. 42. 38.
Woo! Woo! What? I didn't know what's on the left and the right.
Put the bar. Like that right there.
And action! 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 Take it from the top. So we're dropping the seat. How many inches?
We got 1 inch and 7/8 in the front and just under 2.5 in the back.
Bitchin'.
Which will leave just enough room to get a bolt head underneath there. Bolt
Like,
this sucker down.
I pulled the headliner out just so I had more headroom. Like, it's that close.
And you're gonna need that cushion when this thing goes flying through the air. You might need a new headline. Now you'll have room for it. Big decisions.
About 16 hours before we're supposed to leave, we got a bare chassis. Let's see how this goes.
Hey, we've done this before. We've done this before. Like the cab off right before thing, and it was fine.
Yeah, with the wide lux.
Yeah, it was great because when the cab went back on, everything was done.
Yeah.
And hook a couple things up and you're ready to go.
Yeah, it was just nuts and bolts at that point.
Right. That's the easy stuff.
Yeah. Most of the big fab jobs are done.
I mean, all the fuel lines are done. Brake lines are done. Hook them up, bleed them.
Most of the big fab jobs are done. So in 16 hours, we'll have another 8 hours to go and then we can get on the road. A lot of work. Like a way a lot of work. I want to leave in like 12 hours. I don't know if that's realistic or I'm out of my mind, but it seems that's how we always do it. Every goddamn build. Look at how dirty you are. What a grubby hippie you are.
Yep. Good touch.
I don't know where the hole is.
feet are securely fastened to the vehicle. Like a couple more things, we'll be done.
That's it, we napped.
It's only been 8 hours since we started working on this list, and 2 things are done already.
Perfect.
Almost done.
Anybody around to start bleeding brakes?
I gotta tighten up all the fittings still.
Well, get under there and tighten up all the fittings. Cause there's 2 of you. Yeah. And
I'm a good pedal pusher. I can push them pedals all day long.
pretty shortly here, I think we're gonna be getting ready for a test fire.
That's beautiful.
Thought of a great idea for the next one of these big Thrash builds. We set the actual date a week later than we tell all the workers that the date is. And we all grind a whole week ahead of time, and then you're like, ah, it's all right, guys. We got like 5 more days when we're like up and running, and then we really get it nice.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Josh.
What do you think of all that wire care heat shrink?
Good stuff.
Gonna hide that mess.
Yep.
It's now D-Day, and we wanted to leave right now. We're nowhere near done. The body's coming off right now, and we got a whole bunch of little stuff to tidy up. It's been like a week of basically no sleep at all, and hopefully if we're lucky, we'll leave tonight. But a lot of stuff to finish up. Still got drive shafts, still got a whole list of stuff. Napa's at the top of the list, but I think we gotta delete that. How's the wiring looking, Eric?
Good. Pretty well done. Pretty much just need to attach it to the car now.
Cool. So those are the wires that go to the car.
Fuse box. Okay.
Oh, that's cute. Panhard bar brace. Wow, that was way easier than expected.
Smells nice too.
Hopefully you put it in the right spot.
We'll find out. Underneath the frame with them. Alright, it fits. Woo!
Does it actually clear though?
He's got a pinky in there. So we gotta make sure that's definitely the max full bump.
That's full bump.
You know, a lot of things are landing just that close on this build. Like just
Jesus.
landed. Yeah, a little tight.
A little bit of trimming. My hole was kind of a close guess, but trim that out to the side a little bit. Got an old SM465 shifter on a T56 Magnum. Bitchin'.
Oh, you know, just zip tying a knock sensor wire so it doesn't touch the manifold. Trying to make 2 hoses fit together. Make up this weird angle.
I am firing in the powers and grounds into the fuse box at the moment.
Hey Butters, did you do
Should
all
be
the
one of the last things before we get to turn it over. We'll hit the key and see what happens.
Okay.
Up in the front, then forward.
So we're a little behind on the build schedule. We're right on time for Josh.
I think we're right on time for all the crap that had to be done since we got here.
No, we're not doing bad.
And the unknownness of all of it.
I mean, we can only do so much, you know?
We're kicking butt. Are you kidding me? Look at the car. It
Alright.
didn't look like this a week ago.
So what's going on, guys?
Alright, we got fluid going down. We need more brake fluid.
So we got some flowage.
Yep.
Check right here.
We need more of that in there.
We got nothing on the closest line
Let's
right
make
here.
this gonna...
We got some fuel. That's the first step to fire, isn't it? We can't make fire without fuel. 5/8. That's good. We're getting it, baby.
I thought I was a comedian.
Well, I'm pretty sure like 20 minutes ago we were upset we had no fuel pump. Now we got a fuel pump.
Hey boys,
Yes, sir.
I think we have to call it
Why?
because wires.
Okay. Do you want me to make it so it stops dripping gas on your floor though?
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing, tidy that up.
Oh.
But we have to call it. This was like 7 days of, every night we got 2.5 hours of sleep.
7 days of love.
Wasn't it 7? I don't know, it's been 2 months for me, but towards the end it got down to the wire and less sleep.
Yeah.
We have wiring problems, potentially have a computer problem, and even if we could cobble this thing together, we're already an entire day late, day and a half late, and it's going to be a sketchy ride because like everything's going to be zip tied and duct taped and tie banded,
Not zip tied.
and it's probably not even going to make it there. It's going to fall apart, and then we're going to be days and days behind. And that's not really acceptable. So I have to get down to Windrock, a 7,300 acre park with 320 miles of trails. And if we leave right now, we'll be able to make it down there for the start of day 1 of the Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure. I guess we're off. I gotta pack.
That's all, folks.
Many months later.
So we're finally back in the shop after the Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure. Finished up a bunch of odds and ends. Still got a few small things to do, but what did you have to do to make this thing, to get it to where we are?
So we dove through the whole harness, found a bunch of little things wrong with it. Bad news.
You basically built an entire
Yeah,
harness from scratch.
Redid the whole harness right from scratch. You know, tried to weed out any bugs that were in there while we were in there, and clearly didn't weed them all out. Originally tried starting it, and crank sensor found that the crank sensor wire was bad, so crank no start. Tried again, found that it still wouldn't pop with a little bit of starting fluid. It was kicking over, which, you know, figured it was timing related. Check that. Somehow one whole bank of ignition coils, the wiring was all wrong to every cylinder. So got that situated, and hopefully this one will make it go vroom.
And it's going to start the first time every time.
That's the plan, except for it's not the first time at all.
Yeah, this is like the 14th.
It's okay, we'll take it.
Yeah.
I'd say we got more digging to do.
Well, maybe next time it'll start on the first time. So we just found that when this thing went together before the Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure, Eric dropped the cam sensor in and didn't check to see if it was actually in the right spot, and we swapped that around, got that in the right spot now, and it's gonna fire the first time.
Still totally sure it's not mechanical timing. Injector firing order.
Well, that was still cool. That sounds awesome.
That's no backfires through the intake,
Yeah.
which means that our timing is now correct. Just need to correct the injector firing order, apparently.
Whoops.
I'm okay with that.
Moving forward. Progress. So we just found that the injector firing order was wired for the old school 454, but we have an 8.1 liter cam in here, so actual firing order needs to be the same as 8.1 or an LS. So repinning that on the computer side of things, and then it's going to start the first time.
Well, the injectors work. Quick tip, little LED light. LEDs are actually fast enough to react to injector pulse widths, and in a bind, they work as a noid light.
So the injectors are being told to fire, but they're not actually firing. So
Correct.
I've got a mechanical problem and my injectors are junk.
More than likely. I don't think it's worth following these. These are pretty ugly.
That's gross.
Yeah.
So these injectors are smoked. I have very low hopes that we're going to get these things cleaned and flowing. LS1 injectors are the right height, they've got the right O-ring diameter, and they have the correct plug, plus they're a little bit bigger, which these injectors will be maxed out with this cam. So I guess I'm just going to go pick up a set of LS1 injectors and then we'll try it again. So that's more what they should look like. This is a different set of injectors, but just to give you a frame of reference, our other ones are garbage. I just ran up to Nietzsche Automotive and he gave me a set of LS1 injectors, which are the correct height, and they got the correct plug on them for the 7.4 liter, like the Gen 6. Swap those in, and I have a lot of confidence that this thing's actually gonna fire. So here we go. It runs! I didn't shut it off, it died, but it runs. A few more bugs, we're gonna be out wheeling this thing. So this is the first time after all the other times I'm gonna try to start it and it's gonna fire. The first time I just went to Derek's, we got a different computer flashed, and I have faith that it's actually gonna run. Might not run great, it's gonna run. It's gonna run on the first time. So after 1,400 attempts, we got all the firing orders right. We've got plug wires that clear and intakes bolted down and injectors that work. And I have all the confidence this time is going to be the first time it fires. And it's the first, hold on. I'm going to start it up. This is real life when things don't go as planned. We missed the deadline. The last couple of days leading up to the Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure, it was 7 days, and every single day I got 2 hours of sleep. It was nothing but work, and we just couldn't make it, so we had to pull the plug. It's officially done now. We're gonna put it away for the winter, and then in the spring, we're gonna get out and get ready for Deathwish Mud Buggy Adventure 2.